Happy Volunteers Day, everybody. I'm Jill Greenhalgh, and I've had the privilege of going to Vanuatu twice now. Once for 2.5 years, and then I had to go back again to finish off some work for 7 weeks. It was a great plan. This year's theme is Volunteers Act First, Here, Everywhere. And this gives me an opportunity to talk about Cyclone Pam. Before I went to Vanuatu, I was based at Lincoln University in Christchurch, and so I went through two earthquakes. I was lucky at Lincoln in that I wasn't badly affected, but when I went to Vanuatu and had a cyclone, I was able to compare two different types of disasters. Now, you know when a cyclone's coming, and you have a map that you're supposed to track it on. So we're at work and we're thinking, when is this cyclone coming? We have a preparation plan, and we have to put all the computers up on desks, everything off the floor, and if you saw our floor you'd be horrified, up out of the water, out of possible water. Our building is in a hollow, and so was prone to flooding. It had flooded about 2 weeks with heavy rain before the cyclone. And so I said to our boss, what about trying to sandbag the doors? And so next thing, there's a pile of sand out there and everybody's filling up sandbags, and we sandbagged the doors and we covered everything with plastic, and then we all went off to wait, chew our fingernails and wait for the cyclone. VSA provided us with a motel accommodation because we didn't have any shutters on our house. That's Wendy Griffin, my neighbour, and I. But Wendy had a local family who needed to move in with her, and so I moved in with friends who were working there as well. It's a pretty scary experience going through a cyclone. You think the roof might blow off at any moment. You don't know, you can't see anything, you don't have any communication. And the remarkable thing is that after the cyclone, when the cyclone's gone and you peer out into the world and you look at the damage, it's remarkably similar to an earthquake. When you open the door and you look at the damage, you know that the rest of the world probably knows more about what's happened than you do. You have no electricity, you have no communication initially, and then very limited communication. So I had no electricity in my house for 8 days. Some people got theirs put on before that, but that meant communication was a real issue, because how do you charge your phone without any electricity? And that meant we couldn't go to work, and I think we all went back and surveyed the scene, and our building was not damaged at all. We don't know whether the sandbags had worked well or whether they weren't even needed, but we couldn't go back until we had electricity, so it was about a week later. And then we think about Volunteers Act First, here and everywhere. All of us volunteers had to go back to work and then start thinking about how do we carry on with our assignments after a disaster like this. And for me, I couldn't do, or my organisation couldn't do the work that they'd been doing because farmers were back to nothing. However, they were lucky enough to get funding, and we soon went out around Tawhate, which was the closest and one of the more damaged islands, and spoke to all the farmers we were connected to and found out, what do you need to carry on farming? How can we help you? Each one individually, and provided them with the resources that they needed through funding from Oxfam and the New Zealand government. Wendy Griffin worked in early childhood education, so before too long she was out covering the country doing psychosocial workshops with her preschoolers. How do they cope with the disaster that's happened to them? Diane was working in tourism, so she had the job of helping to put back together all the small bungalow owners. How can they get back up into business as soon as possible, and as soon as tourists started coming back to Vanuatu. So I hope that you realise that volunteers don't just do the job that they go to do. Wherever they are, they're there to do whatever is needed to be done. And I hope that you all have a happy Volunteers Day and think about what we do and what you might do to help us do these jobs.